This is a story called The Little Monsters at Christmas. Chapter 63. The gang put on a Christmas concert to raise money for the school equipment needed after a school fire. The gang are at school and everyone's in their classes when the fire alarms suddenly go off and the whole school has to be evacuated. Thankfully, the teachers managed to get everyone out safely, as the fire was only in the canteen, the music room and the school library. Once the fire brigade had put out the fire, they allowed everyone to go back in to collect their belongings, but only one class at a time. The kids were all sent home early and everyone had to stay off school for 2 whole weeks to enable the staff to sort out the school building. The fire started in the music room due to a faulty electric plug socket and the whole room was gutted. The school board decided that it would be safer to get the whole school rewired. However, Mrs. Scott's husband was an electrician and he owned his own company. He promised to rewire the whole school for half the price he'd normally charge. It took just over a week to finish rewiring the school, and once it was finished, the decorators came in and decorated the whole school. They also did the job for half the price they'd normally charge, as the man who owned the company was Mrs. Scott's brother, and he had kids in the school. Once the school was finished, the kids were able to go back. However, there was no library books, no music equipment and no cooking equipment in the kitchen. The kitchen staff were able to provide cold sandwiches for everyone, but of course they couldn't cook anything. The kids knew that it was going to cost grand to replace everything, and the school board were desperately trying to come up with the money. Then Creeper had an idea. I know, guys. Why don't we put on a concert and go busking to raise money for the school? That's a great idea, but please can we eat first? I'm starving, said Stumpy. They all looked at each other, then at Stumpy, and all together they said, "You're always starving, Stumpy." Then Grumpy said, "Stumpy, is there ever a day goes by when you don't think about food in your stomach?" "No, I even dream about food in my sleep," answered Stumpy. They all laughed and then Kicker said, "Why doesn't that surprise us, Stumpy? Guess what, guys?" "Let me guess, you're hungry too," said Bumpy. "Yeah, I am," said Kicker. "You're as bad as Stumpy, Kicker," said Stampy. They all laughed and then they settled down to eat their packed lunches. Once they'd finished eating, Grumpy said, "If we're going to put on a Christmas concert, why don't we get the other kids involved? It's their school too." Paul Pease wasn't that far away and he said to them, "I'd like to be involved, please. I can sing and I can play lots of instruments." "I'd like to be involved too, please," said Joanne Strawberry. When the other kids heard what they were planning, they wanted to be involved too. "It looks like we have ourselves a Christmas concert. All we need to do now is work out when and where it's going to be," said Bumpy. "Well, I'm sure Susan, the manager from the club, will allow us to have the concert in the club if we tell her what it's for," said Stumpy. "Oh, Stumpy, I take it you've finished eating now then?" asked Grumpy. No, I'm just taking a break until I eat all of my chocolate, sweets, cream cakes and crisps," answered Stumpy. "You mean you're going to eat all that at once and not share it with anyone? With any of us?" asked Cricket. "Yeah, of course," answered Stumpy. They all laughed, finished their lunch, and then after school, they called at the club to see Susan. And when they got there, Kicker said, "Susan, You know that there was a fire at our school? Well, we're wanting to have a Christmas concert to raise money for the new equipment that the school needs, and we were wondering if we could have it here over 7 nights, please. Of course you can. How about all next week? It's only Monday now, so you'll have plenty of time to rehearse, said Susan. That's perfect, said Bumpy. When the kids went to school the next day, they told the other kids where and when the concert was going to be. They decided that they'd start rehearsing that day at lunchtime, as long as the choir master would allow them to. They saw him arrive at school and they went over to him and Stampy said, "Sir, we're having a Christmas concert all next week for charity, and we were wondering if we could use the music room to rehearse, please. We have our own equipment and we'll clean up after ourselves when we've finished." "Of course you can, but we'll have to make sure that it's okay with Mrs. Scott. Come on, we'll go and see her now," said Mr. Redgrave. They went to see Mrs. Scott and she said it was okay for them to use the music room for as long as they needed to. That day they got some of their stuff to the school and started rehearsing. They rehearsed lots of Christmas songs that they already knew and had performed before, as well as some new ones that they'd never done before. On the first night of the concert, they were all nervous, especially those who'd never had a concert before, but they smashed it. That first night they raised £5,000. They'd already raised £2,000 through busking and putting all their money together. Altogether, so far, they'd raised £7,000. However, they didn't tell anyone, except their parents, and they were sworn to secrecy. The next day, during lunchtime, the kids went busking in the local shopping centre, not far from the school, and between them they earned £800, taking the total so far to £800. On the second night of their concert they managed to raise another £5,000, taking the total they'd raised so far to £12,800. Again the next day during lunchtime they had their lunch and then they went busking. They managed to raise another £300 between them, taking the total they'd raised so far to £13,100. They did this every day and by the end of the week they'd raised a whopping £60,000 through their concert and busking. The following Monday all the kids who'd raised the money went down to the front of the assembly hall and then Grumpy said, "Mrs. Scott, we have something to give to you, but before we do we need to explain something to you. As you know, we've just had a week-long Christmas concert and we've been busking every day too. As a result of this, we've raised £60,000 and this goes to you. This is to buy all the equipment needed for the school after the other stuff got damaged in the fire." Mrs. Scott couldn't believe it and she became quite emotional, as did the other teachers. Once she'd managed to compose herself, she said to the kids, "Thank you so much, guys. There's enough money here to buy everything that needs replacing after the fire." Then everyone gave her and the kids, of course, a round of applause, and then they all made their way to their classes. End of chapter 63. Hope you like it, guys. Thanks for watching. Love yous. Bye. Oh, remember, guys, before I forget again, please go to my YouTube channel, comment, share, subscribe, and please go to Facebook and comment, share and like. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.